Matthew of Mixed Domestic here to show you how to make these pop-up containers. If you've never made them before or even seen them, look. Boing, boing, boing. You can travel with them. They have springs inside. There's a whole process to make these amazing containers that you can store lots of fun things. And you get to decide what fabrics to use. So if this is your first time here, as I stated earlier, my name is Matthew of Mixed Domestic. This is an inclusive sewing and crafting brand and community. So if something like that sounds pretty neato mosquito to you, then make sure to subscribe to my channel, and then don't forget to hit that bell to get notified anytime a new video comes out. As much fun as quilts and pillows and bags are, sometimes it's super fun to make something useful that you'll see for organization around whatever room you want to put these in. So if your curiosity has been piqued on to make these amazing pop-up containers, then this is the video for you. First up, you will need to get these inserts. I have these 3 sizes in my shop, and then you will need the pattern. This will have the measurements and dimensions and the templates for creating the pop-up containers. And then on the back of the refills, it has the circle that you'll need to cut out the circles for the base. I have traced the half circle that you need to create the full circle from the medium pop-up refill, and I'm going to cut the base of both the inside and the outside from the same fabric. 1 circle. I'll need to cut out 1 more. And then this SF101 is my favorite interfacing. It's a mid-weight woven fusible interfacing that I am going to cut out 2 pieces of interfacing for the side. So I have all of the pieces. This is what you'll need once you get them cut out. These are the 2 pieces. This is the outside fabric interfaced with Pellon SF101. This is the lining fabric, also interfaced with SF101. The 2 circles that I cut out whenever I traced here. I have the insert, which is the pop-up refill. I'm going to use one of these love labels instead of the label that comes with it, which is one of the Sarah Hart's labels. So the first step is preparing the tubes, which will be sewn right sides together. And this label will be inserted at the same time on the outside one. So this one, I'll just put this right sides together and stitch along here at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm gonna use some sew line glue just to dab it right here. This doesn't shift and move around, it just helps baste it. Right there, that's a cute spot for it. Fold this over, right sides together, raw edges lined up. Place a clip here, and place a clip here. So I've put my 1/4 inch foot on here to do most of the sewing, just to keep the seams tidy. I'm gonna backstitch at the beginning and the end, just to keep everything in place. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the lining. So now I have the 2 tubes sewn, and I pressed these seams, and then I pressed them in quarters, so then I can mark each of the quarter sections that I can match up with these circles. So I'll put these aside for now. So these circles, I'm gonna press them in half, which they already were done, so that line is there, and then press them again in half, matching up those mid lines. So I have 4 clips, and I'm going to take each of these 4 points and match them to the 4 creases or marks on the tube, making sure that I get the bottom. Ta-da, cute! And I will do the same thing with the lining pair. And then take this to my sewing machine and stitch at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, like so. I have my 1/4 inch foot on here again, and I put the bottom down, making sure to keep that correct. And then my one job is to make sure these raw edges line up. Then I have a stiletto here that I'm using just so I can keep my fingers away from the needle. And it actually allows it to get in there a lot more precise than with my fingers. Now that these 2, the lining and the outside, have their base on it, they're now going to be attached. So base to base, wrong side to wrong side. I'm going to clip them at the same points. And now I will take this to my sewing machine and stitch these together. It doesn't have to be on the seam line, just to make sure that they are joined. And now that I've gone around once, I am going to go around one more time to get right on that seam line so that I have a sturdy, strong base. Now that this is done, I am going to use my pinking shears just to cut off some of the excess bulk here, making sure not to cut that inside seam line. So if you don't have pinking shears, don't sweat it. You could just trim it with regular scissors or a rotary cutter just to get it from 1/4 inch to 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now that these are attached, first thing is to bring the outside to the outside, and in between the lining and the exterior, you're going to put this insert, the ring, the spring, like so. One thing to note, do not cut this tape yet. Once it's at the bottom, you will need safety pins. I'm going to use 4 pins above where the spring is. Make sure you really use that pin the full length. Ta-da. And I'm going to do that in quarters also. And now that I've pinned, now you go in there and you cut the tape. In between, slide it like so, and cut this tape. Other one will be on the other side. And these safety pins will keep the spring from springing while we finish up the top. And now we'll take the raw edges of the top in those 4 quarters and clip them like so. Now this will go to the sewing machine and basted. For the first pass, I'm just going to baste it, so I'll bring it out to 4 millimeters. And I am basting it at roughly 1/8 of an inch from the raw edge. The only thing that's left to do is determine whether or not you want the top to be finished with the lining, creating a trim on the outside, or if you want the outside fabric to go toward the inside, creating that on the inside. I think I want the razzle dazzle on the outside. This also means it's time for me to bring in the Wonder Tape. So I am going to set this in place. It's 1/4 inch along this top inside raw edge. And then before I remove the tape, which is a temporary tape, and it washes out, not that you could actually wash this, but it's a temporary tape that I can heat set. I use this for zippers. But this way I don't have to worry about like pins or clips, and I can make sure that it's absolutely precise before I take it over to my sewing machine. So I have set in that first fold for the double fold that I'm going to do. Now I'll remove this. Now I can fold it and put it in place. I can look at it, adjust it, make any adjustments before I do the final heat setting it. Now that that is set, I'm going to heat set it in place one final time. And now that this is set, once it cools, I'll take it to my sewing machine and edge stitch along here. If you were going to put in elastic or a tie, this is where I would put it in. Even with Wonder Tape, you could lift it up and slip it in there. I don't want that for this one. If I wanted to close it up, I'll use like a scrunchie or something. Just didn't want to mess up the aesthetic of this with that. So now I put my edge stitch foot on, and I did switch to a denim needle since this is a lot of layers. I want to make sure I can get through it, and I've gone to a 2.8 millimeter stitch length. And now I'll just stitch all the way around. The final thing to do, look at this, yeah. The final thing to do is to remove these safety pins and let the spring boing. Now the structure has been created. And look, boink, boink, boink. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial on how to make these amazing pop-up containers. They come in multiple sizes, and this is not my first time making these. It's been a while, but still, this is one of my most gratifying makes because, yeah, these are gonna get heavy rotation in my room for various things. I mean, this one I have my pens in. This one I'm gonna keep extra scraps and strips. I'm actually thinking about making the large version with this canvas for a trash can in my room. How cool would that be? So I hope you loved this video as much as I did making it for you. Until next time, happy sewing.